Hello, this is episode 2 of A Wish for Afghanistan from the BBC World Service. Stories of those who've made and been made by the country I've been covering for more than 3 decades now. I'm Lise Doucette. In the weeks after the attacks on New York and Washington 20 years ago, the Taliban's main spokesman was a 34-year-old former refugee.
America will never achieve its political goals.
I remember watching him, bearded, bespectacled. He held press conferences at his residence in Pakistan on a lawn packed with journalists. His name? Abdul Salam Zaif, ambassador of the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan.
The Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan has always...
The eyes of the world were upon him. The US and its allies were taking over his country.
The Afghans will rise.
And his days, like those of the Taliban government itself, were numbered. Soon, Pakistan's security services knocked on his door. Your Excellency, they said, using his formal diplomatic title, you are no longer an excellency. It began a journey that would end in a US detention camp more than 13,000 kilometers away in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Zaif remembers the first interrogation.
He told me, well, you are not cooperating with us because you are thinking that the Taliban will be coming again. It's not possible. It's not. It's finished. I told him, I have the experience of Afghanistan, and you will be defeated in Afghanistan. You will not succeed in Afghanistan. You will not remain in Afghanistan.
He got that one right. 20 years later, the Americans have left. The Taliban are back in power. A reversal that's shocked the world and raised so many questions about what happened before and what happens next. This former Taliban ambassador and spokesman has a unique perspective on those urgent questions. And the most important for tens of millions of Afghans, who are the Taliban today?
The Taliban changed. The Taliban changed by experience. The Taliban changed by knowledge. The Taliban changed by political understanding. All the thing was changed, but not changed Islam for them. That's not change. The basic principle of Islam, the Taliban wanted in Afghanistan. They want an really Islamic government in Afghanistan.
Abdul Salam Zaif, better known as Mullah Zaif, was a founding member of the Taliban. I've met him many times over many years. For this series, we spoke in Doha in Qatar, where the Taliban have a political office, and at his home in Kabul, both times before American troops pulled out and the Afghan government collapsed. Here we are just weeks before the Taliban took Kabul. The Taliban are rapidly advancing on the ground. It seems they are bent on victory.
But still, I think the Taliban still they are believing in some dialogue.
And now we hear reports of women being told to remain indoors, only to go out with a man to accompany them. This doesn't seem much different from the 1990s. There's reports of executions, reports of abuses. It must worry you that the Taliban could fall back into the old ways.
Really, I'm worried about the situation. But my advice is to all of them, to the Taliban, to the government, to the other political people, to do work by the peace process and to respect to the people, the right of the people.
But 20 years after the Taliban were ousted, the Taliban believe they've won.
The Taliban will not wait till negotiation will continuing. They will not wait.
So in other words, if the negotiations don't speed up or if they fail, they will take power.
Yeah, they will.
At any cost.
Any cost. They will come to the power through negotiation or through fighting.
He seems to have got that one right too. That was late July. Weeks later, they were in power. And when it comes to fighting, or to struggle as he might call it, he knows something about that too. It goes back to his childhood. You were born in a village in Kandahar in southern Afghanistan, a poor village, the son of a poor mullah.
Yeah, my father was mullah, the imam of the masjid. I was
The head of the mosque. No running water, no electricity, no telephones.
This was not only in my village. The rest of Afghanistan was the same, I think.
Do you remember it as a hard childhood?
No, it was very happy time. We were feeling peace and stability, and we were feeling safe.
But you lost your father, your mother to illness at a very young age? You were orphaned?
Yes. I'm not remember my mother because maybe I was 6 months like this. But my father, I was almost 7 years when he died. But I don't want to remember this time because this was very hard.
Life was not about to get any easier. He fled to Pakistan with his remaining family before Soviet forces invaded in 1979. He grew up as a refugee, but always wanted to go home. And at the age of 15, he went back to face the occupiers. What drew you to the fight, what you call the jihad?
I think fighting against any occupation, this is the responsibility of anyone. And especially the Islamic country, when the communists they want to change our country to non-Islamic and to occupied by Russia.
But you were only a teenager.
A teenager, yeah. But a stranger came to my country. They are killing our people.
And you later said you wish you had died on the battlefield. You want to be a martyr.
Yeah. I'm believing in the Holy Quran. I was believing in what the ulama said to us. And they were telling us to be martyred in this way, we'll go to Jannah.
You go to?
Jannah, paradise. That's we wanted. Yeah.
He nearly got his wish. Several times. His autobiography describes firefights with Soviet troops, his fellow fighters being cut down around him, Mullah Zaif himself taking a bullet. The Taliban didn't formally exist at this point, but Mullah Zaif says the men who would become the main players already knew each other, and they were united by Islamic ideas and principles. They saw other fighters who shaved and smoked hashish as degenerates, lightweights, cinema boys, he called them. Still, together, they drove out the Soviets.
The Kremlin is now coming close to outright admission that the entire 9-year adventure was a mistake.
In 1989, the BBC's men in Moscow put it this way.
Despite at least 50,000 casualties, the Red Army hasn't lost the Afghan war. It simply failed utterly to win it. There's little to show for 9 years of wasted men, money, machinery and morale.
I was in Kabul then and watched the Red Army go. And before long, the various Afghan factions turned their guns on each other. And in that chaos of civil war, the Taliban emerged in 1994. What did you have in terms of military hardware?
Yeah, this was a two motorcycle. One was made by Russian. It was a motorcycle. It had a loud voice.
A loud voice.
But we were calling it the tank of Islam.
You call the Russian motorcycle the tank of Islam?
The tank of Islam, because we were using that to go there, and that's what using the tank of Islam. And I had a small motorcycle also.
And that's all you had?
Yeah. In the beginning, yes.
2 motorcycles. What a contrast. Today, the Taliban are riding around in American Humvees, wearing American night vision goggles, holding American guns. Again, making the most of what a superpower left behind or lost. The Taliban first took Kabul in 1996. The nation was desperate then for some kind of stability after years of war. For the first time, the militants had to show their skill, not with guns, but government.
My job was a manager of Central Bank, and then the administration of Defense Ministry. Then I was Deputy Minister of Mine and Industries, and then I became Minister of Transportation.
I mean, you had almost no formal education. Did you have any skills at all for those jobs?
Really, I haven't the education for that, and I had no experience for that.
In your book, you write, and I quote, "Women were no longer working in government departments, and the men had started to grow beards." That just didn't happen spontaneously. That was the strict regime of the Taliban, keeping women at home and telling men and women what to wear and not to wear.
If you look to the situation of Afghanistan before Taliban, I think this was necessary to come like a dictator, to tell the people you have to do that. It was not like a democracy, or I think this was the necessary of that time.
Executing women in the stadiums, whipping women on the streets, denying girls education.
Really, the Taliban were not able to create a situation for the education of women, or they didn't do for the men also. There was no budget for that, because in that time, the budget of Afghanistan was $80 million.
Well, so if you know it wasn't a financial problem, it was a problem of interpretation of Islam, very strict in terms of women's rights.
One thing, the Taliban was not against education, but the condition to the education, the Taliban was not able to prepare. But in Islamic culture, the men, they have a priority than women, because the responsibility of men is more than women. The men have a responsibility to provide the house, the food, and anything for the men. This was the reason, not the reason of religion.
A strict interpretation of Islam, as well as deeply conservative traditions, have united and motivated the Taliban. But their interpretation is widely disputed across the Muslim world, including in Afghanistan. Once in power, they committed appalling human rights abuses under the guise of religious law. They were a pariah long before the terrible events of 2001.
Now you got people running up the street.
Then I heard that another plane hit, and if you go over by there, you can see the people jumping out the window. They're jumping out the window right now.
September the 11th, 2001, that historic day. Do you remember where you were when you saw the images from the United States?
Yeah, I remember it was the night, and I was in Islamabad, but I had no television to follow the news. But my neighbor, he called, there is an explosion in the United States and fire on World Trade Center, if you want to see. I went there, and I saw, and it was very terrible for me. And my eye was tears.
You were crying?
Not crying, just like tears came. But there was suspicion on me that you are not happy with this. I told them, no, I'm not happy really. In the United States, they will be blaming who? They will blame Osama bin Laden for that, and Osama bin Laden is in Afghanistan, and we will give the price of this thing. This is concerning about.
Again, he was right. Right to be concerned, that is. Osama bin Laden wasn't part of the Taliban, although he'd sworn allegiance to its leader. He wasn't even Afghan, he was Saudi. But he was their guest. He'd led Al-Qaeda, an extremist group that killed hundreds of people in attacks on US targets in East Africa and Yemen in the years leading up to 9/11. Washington had been demanding that Kabul hand him over. Now, there was an ultimatum. The Taliban refused. The attacks began, the US and UK-led invasion of Afghanistan, October the 7th. I read that Mullah Omar, the Taliban leader, said to you, oh, there's only a 10% chance that the United States will attack Afghanistan. Did you not believe it would happen?
I was 100% sure that Afghanistan will be attacked.
And by November, the group called the Northern Alliance entered Kabul, backed by foreign forces. Taliban rule was almost over. Well, how did that feel for you?
I was thinking this is a new door or problem opened, but I was not thinking that the American will be successful in Afghanistan. And the better way will be to leave the territory of Afghanistan as soon as possible.
December the 7th, 2001, the Taliban were retreating from their last strongholds. And you announced, I quote you, "Tomorrow the Taliban will start surrendering their weapons. I think we should go home." Did you think then it's over?
No. This is the decision of some individuals, not the leadership. And the leadership declared, he spoke to all commanders when he was leaving the Kandahar at that time, that the American came to Afghanistan, they occupied our country, we will continue jihad against them and don't be surrendered.
So in public, the Taliban were saying one thing. In private, they were doing the opposite. It was never likely that men like Mullah Zaif would bend to the will of the Americans. I've seen an official document that describes Mullah Zaif's time in the US detention camp in Guantanamo Bay. It says he was, and I quote, non-compliant and slightly aggressive. His own version of events bears that out.
After 3 years, the same investigator came to me. Was the table, fruit, food, and anything like I'm a guest.
So he wanted your help then?
Yeah.
By this time, in Afghanistan, the Taliban insurgency was building.
Then he said, this is the time to cooperate with us. I said, yes, but I cannot even cooperate with you. But my consultation to you is, if you are still want to be stuck in Afghanistan, then your destination will be like a destination of Russia.
So in other words, in the same way that the Soviet occupation of Afghanistan ended in failure, so too with the American. That was 2005.
Yeah. If you are clever, you have to leave as soon as possible Afghanistan. This will be your victory.
It's worth considering just how it is that he's been proven correct. How have the Taliban crawled out from under the boot, not just of the American military, but the UK and other NATO allies? I've been covering this closely from the start, and to be honest, I still struggle to make sense of what happened. A crucial part of the answer is to look across the eastern border, to Pakistan. As you know, many say that the origins of the Afghan Taliban lies in the madrasas of Pakistan, where you studied as religious students and helped by Pakistan formed the movement.
This is reality. The Taliban mostly they studied in Pakistan because Afghanistan was occupied. When the movement became stronger, yes, the Pakistan, they were supporting the Taliban.
Is the support from Pakistan one of the main reasons why the Taliban have been able to come back again after they were routed in 2001? They provided sanctuary, the training, the camps, your families could live there, medical support was there, everything was right across the border.
Yeah, I'm not rejecting that.
Pakistan is widely seen to have played a double game since 9/11, handing over Mullah Zaif and others to the Americans, allowing US convoys to supply troops in Afghanistan and so on, but at the same time helping the Taliban recover. And there are these big questions. Did they know or not know that Osama bin Laden was hiding in their country for years? Pakistan, it must be said, denies any duplicity. It suffered terrible violence and casualties at home at the hands of other militant groups. Mullah Zaif, for his part, despises those in Pakistan who betrayed him and others to the US, and for not providing the Taliban even more support. The Americans released Mullah Zaif in 2005. He promised not to rejoin the Taliban, so he's no longer an official spokesman. But when he returned to Kabul, his home became a popular destination for those looking for insight into Taliban thinking. I've been one of them. Here we are speaking recently in Doha. Everyone came to see you in Kabul, Americans,
But
British.
Always I was against the occupation. Always, until today.
Well, you call it an occupation, but they were working with the Afghan government and security forces.
Who made the Afghan government?
The Afghans, it's an elected government.
Don't say that. This is just to put the soil on the eyes of the people. This was made by Americans. They were cooperating by Americans. The Americans, they didn't do any basic thing for Afghanistan. Tell me what they did in Afghanistan.
The international community helped create the space that a whole new generation has gone to school, gone to university. And these people, this young, educated generation, they're leaving. They're leaving in droves because they're fearful that the Taliban will come back and impose the kind of life that they don't want to live.
I don't think they are fearing from the Taliban.
They're fearing for their lives.
No. When the Taliban said, for example, they had a discussion right now with America for the interpreter. They said, why you are giving the asylum to the interpreter?
Interpreters and others who've worked with foreigners have been terrified of retribution from the Taliban. They were part of that crush of people at Kabul airport.
We will be not against them. They have to keep in Afghanistan. Why you are withdrawing? What is the reason?
Well, because you say to them, yes, you live, but you must first apologize. You must show remorse that you have betrayed your country. Even now, just before I came to see you, a report of another military interpreter beheaded by the Taliban.
They were working with a foreigner. They were working the occupation. They went to the home of the Taliban with foreigner. They killed the people there. If someone British coming with me, I'm going to your home in Britannia, I'm killing you, your brother or someone. What you will do with them? Why they are cooperating with my enemy? You are my brother.
These are jobs.
Job with my enemy. For my killing. For insulting me to enter my home.
I remember one of the sentences in your book that you said that you regretted that when the Taliban were in power in the 1990s, you said, we did not have the education to make a deal with the world. In other words, we didn't have enough understanding. But now, so for someone like you, it must be a worry that the educated Afghans are leaving, whatever way they can.
No, why they are leaving?
Because they're afraid. They've been assassination of educated people for months now.
For example, if they are scaring from me or from the other person, when I am giving assurance that it will be not
words is one thing, Mullah Zaif. What's happening on the ground, the targeted assassinations for months.
Yeah, we cannot able to stop something like this.
In the weeks since that interview, it's been hard to get a complete picture of the number of revenge killings in Afghanistan as the Taliban take charge. Taliban leaders vow there will be no grudges, no revenge. But every day produces new reports. The UN Human Rights Council recently expressed grave concern.
You don't know what the people of Afghanistan want. You know that?
Well, there's been elections, there's social media, there's so many ways to find out now.
No. You don't know what the people of Afghanistan want, which I know. The people of Afghanistan want a stable country.
They want peace.
Stable country. The people of Afghanistan want Afghanistan to be independent. The people of Afghanistan want the really justice for all.
But the people also want not to be told what to wear, how to live, what music they can listen to or not listen to. They don't want to be dictated to. That's what they're telling us.
This is not the priority.
Afghanistan has changed, Mullah Zaif, since the 90s.
Not changed by all the people of Afghanistan. The people, if you go to the outside of Kabul, if you go to the village, you will see the situation. What is the change?
Women don't want to be confined to their homes. They don't want to be told that they need to have a male relative for them to leave the house. You think the women want to be confined to their homes? No. Do you think they want to be accompanied?
How many percentage of women want life of Europe?
Not life of Europe, life of Afghanistan.
What
basic freedoms, Mullah Zaif, for a woman to be able to leave the house when she wants, doesn't have to be accompanied by a relative, doesn't have to wear a burqa if she doesn't want to, basic rights and freedoms. That's where Afghanistan has changed.
This will be happening. This will be happening, but you have to know the priority in Afghanistan. I think this is all the thing is possible to be discussed.
Do you think there'll be peace and stability within a year?
If there is the interfering of the foreign of Afghanistan will be not. I think if this situation is continuing, it will be hard to be witness for peace in Afghanistan.
Hard to be a witness for peace. His phrase should be a cause for pause. Mullah Zaif, as we've heard, has been right about the future in Afghanistan a few times. He says there could be peace in a year, but he means peace on strict Taliban terms. That will shoot fear through the veins of countless Afghans. But so too, though, does the prospect of more war. Right now, a wish for Afghanistan could be for better choices. Next time on A Wish for Afghanistan, former Afghan President Hamid Karzai, in power for most of the past 20 years, often at odds with his American allies. And what did Joe Biden do?
He got up and he got angry and threw the Soviet and left.
Before you go, could I ask a favor? We'd really like people to listen to our conversations on Afghanistan. Would you mind sharing it with your friends or followers on social media? I'll be doing the same. It really helps us spread the word. And if you're listening where you can leave a review, we'd love to hear what you think. Thank you so much. Until the next time.